Good morning. It's a Wednesday. Good morning. Yeah, it is Wednesday. Welcome back to Wake Up Cricket powered by Pavilion Picks. This is your host Praatibh. I've got Megha alongside me as well. The IPL season is on. There is a lot of IPL that is going on. So we'll get right into the news. But before that, hit that like button, share this video with your friends, subscribe to the channel, get us to 500 subscribers. We're almost there. And let's get right into it.
And we get into it with the result of the previous day's game. I School Connolly leads nervy PBKS home on IPL debut. Gujarat Titans stopped Punjab Kings in their tracks but could not stop them from going over the finish line in New Chandigarh. Cooper Connolly steered the hosts home in a chase that began authoritatively before taking nervy turns. Praatibh Singh led the initial charge alongside Connolly before Prasidh Krishna initiated a collapse that derailed the chase. But with help from Marco Jansen and Xavier Bartlett, Connolly took PBK's home with 5 balls to spare. GT had a subpar outing with the bat, with three of their top four getting off to good starts, but none of them capitalizing. Yuzvendra Chahal was back to his best, taking out Shubman Gill and Joss Butler, who top scored with 39 and 38 respectively. PBK's bowlers conceded 14 extras, 11 of which were wides, four of them coming in the final over by Arshdeep Singh. Perhaps the more relevant stat separating the teams was that GT hit three sixes in the innings and PBKS as many as 14.
Now, if you watched yesterday's Wake Up Cricket, Ashwin did speak about the absence of Josh Inglis and how that would have impacted the Punjab Kings, right? And really, realistically speaking, not many of us thought that Cooper Connolly would be coming in at number three. It's something we only figured out because Ricky Ponting and there was news around the fact that he will be batting at number three. Not a lot of pundits really gave him much of a chance to be able to come in and play the kind of knock that he did yesterday. And ultimately, that was the difference between the sides. I think the news also talks about how it was the six hitting of the Punjab Kings that was a huge factor, especially if you consider the kind of pitch there was on display yesterday. It wasn't your typical 200 pitch. You saw that it was a little tacky, there was a little bit of spongy bounce as well. And Gujarat Titans, with the kind of squad they have, they still managed to not get up to at least 180, which honestly, with the kind of batting they have, they should have been able to do very easily. Of course, there's a lot of questions there in terms of how mechanical Gujarat Titans were yesterday in terms of their batting order, in terms of the entry points for someone like a Washington Sundar versus Shah Rukh Khan and Rahul Tewatia, because at the end, I think Tewatia got about 11 runs of 10 deliveries, which you know that he is going to take some time to get in. So why not send him a little earlier when you know that your team hasn't particularly gotten the runs that it should have? And I do think that the biggest differentiating point was how Punjab Kings batted in the power play. Although at some point, if you look at the scores, they're mostly par, I think around 10 overs, 80 or something like that. But Punjab Kings, the kind of impetus they showed at the top of the order, especially Prabhsimran Singh continuing his good run from last season, was really important to put pressure on the Gujarat bowlers. And I think another really solid point that you can think about is Prasidh Krishna. Now, he came in and in the 13th over and just bowled 4 overs on the trot. The question there is, could he have come in a little earlier? We do know that he's been brilliant in the middle overs, got 25 wickets last season as well, was the purple cap holder. Considering all of that, would it have made sense, especially when your total's not that big, to have just got Prasidh Krishna in slightly earlier, maybe somewhere in the ninth over or the 10th over? That's something that Gujarat will have to look at in the future.
And coming back to PBKS and Connolly, it's interesting that he got those runs at number three because in the build up to the tournament, the Big Bash League that he had, he did fairly well with the ball, but with the bat, he had been struggling. Started with back to back half centuries, and then there was this long stretch, long run where he was barely able to get into the double digits. For
Right.
Ricky Ponting then to show faith in him at number three and for
Mhm.
him to deliver, that would do massive to his confidence, massive boost to his confidence. Now, moving on, all eyes on fit again Mayank as LSG kickstarts season against DC. Both Lucknow Super Giants and Delhi Capitals missed out on the playoffs last season, although not entirely. Both teams somewhat reset themselves ahead of IPL 2026. But the similarities don't end there. Before the season opener, LSG will be missing Vanendu Hasaranga, whom they'd acquired for INR 2 crore. The all-rounder isn't in India yet as he's due to clear a fitness test by Sri Lankan cricket. Mitchell Stark, whom DC retained for INR 11.75 crore, will be missing the early part of the season as he's recovering from a shoulder injury and an elbow injury. While LSG might replace Hasaranga with quick Andrik Norkia, especially since it's a red soil pitch in Lucknow, they would also not want over reliance on their overseas batters, Mitchell Marsh, Aiden Markram, and Nicholas Puran. Each of them got over 400 runs last IPL, while all of LSG's Indian batters combined scored only 835 runs. Mayank Yadav burst into the limelight by breaching 150 km per hour mark in IPL 2024, but in nearly 2 years, he has played just 7 competitive matches across formats, having been troubled by injuries. After being ruled out of IPL 2024 midway and missing IPL 2025 entirely, Mayank heads into this IPL with a green signal. Will this one finally be his?
Cool. So this is very similar to how Umran Malik's career has also gone, right? If you think about it, Umran Malik burst onto the scene, had that really good season for the Sunrisers, ended up as the fourth highest wicket taker in that IPL of 2022, and then after that, he just kind of disappeared. He was fast tracked into the Indian setup, very similar to what they did with Mayank Yadav as well, and that's almost a given if you're bowling 150 plus consistently, right? They push you to the highest level, and often what happens is that comes with injuries, and why that is simply because these bowlers don't have the volume of overs behind them, especially in red ball domestic cricket. And so they're once they're pushed into the international setup, their workload goes up exponentially. There's suddenly a lot of games that they're playing. They have to be part of a lot of practice games because they're newbies in the Indian setup. And ultimately, that's also what caused Mayank Yadav all the injuries. Of course, he's still very young, getting to know his body, what works for him, if his action needs to be tweaked. There's a lot of conversation around that. And I mean, in the last couple of years, he's played just 7 domestic games. He's mostly
Yeah.
just been at the center of excellence. It's not been easy for him also. Every time he kind of recovers, plays a couple of games, and then something goes wrong yet again. You expect that to happen when someone's bowling as fast as him. But now something you want to also keep in mind is how can you sort of have some kind of longevity with his career, especially for LSG. It becomes important if he can come back. He is currently mostly fit is what the news is, and so if he does get to start, how exactly are LSG going to use him? I know it's just 4 overs that he has to bowl, but the kind of intensity and the kind of pace with which he bowls means that he is still going to be injury prone. So, do they just get him started straight away? Do they play him the entire season? Do they play him for a couple of games and then reassess? Because LSG also you need to realize they don't have the best bowling lineups going around. Of course, they have people, but ultimately Mayank Yadav is going to be that X factor player for them.
Absolutely, and that's why they've backed him relentlessly. In fact, he announced himself with two back-to-back player of the match performances, but since then has struggled to feature in games for LSG. Next up, we have Suryavanshi, definitely in the race for high honors. Riyan Parag was watching Vaibhav Suryavanshi bat in Guwahati against Chennai Super Kings on Monday and going, wow, how does he do it? At the same time, Piyush Chawla and Ambati Raidu, watching from ESPN Cricket Info Studios, were wondering if an India call-up is around the corner for the 15-year-old Rajasthan Royals dasher. Chawla said he would love to see him fast-tracked to the top level. Raidu was a bit more cautious but said the young man was definitely in the race. He looks a cut above a lot of youngsters in the country and he is a talent that will definitely do wonders for Indian cricket. I don't know when, but definitely in the future. Raidu said on ESPN Cricket Info's timeout show after Suryavanshi had slammed 52 in 17 balls to hurry RR to an 8 wicket win over CSK. The way he has been batting and the freedom with which he has been batting, it's great testament to the fact that RR management has been doing a wonderful job not complicating things for him. And a shot making, the ease with which he's been taking on bowlers is unbelievable at this age. It's easy to forget that Suryavanshi is just 15. He reached the milestone on March 27th, and the role of the team management, not just RR, but wherever he plays, cannot be overstated. The messaging to Webber is like, we don't put pressure on him. We don't want him to be aware of the noise outside. So it's about what he likes doing. He likes batting, so we ensure that he gets to bat enough in the nets. If there's something he likes to eat, we make sure that's available for him. Riyan Parag, the RR captain, said in the press conference after the game.
I think it's so cute that when he wants something to eat, they just give it to him, and that kind of highlights how young he is. Right, he's just 15 years of age, and I know this game was a couple of nights ago, but just a little bit on Weber Suryavanshi. He's came in last season, did everything, got that quick century as well, became the youngest to do it in the IPL, and batted with a strike rate, more importantly, of 206 in last year's season. Did it with an average of 36, scored a volume of runs. And so this season was always going to be more important for him, right? We talk about the second season blues or the second season syndrome, where because of the fact that the player is now in the spotlight and because of the fact that there's a lot more data on this player, especially with Webber, because he also played India under 19, he played India A as well. So considering these things, there will be a lot more concrete plans against Webber. In fact, it's something that Akash Chopra also spoke about on one of the shows as well. But keeping all of that in mind, for him to still turn up in that first match and put in that performance, I think we are seeing something exceptional. And so the conversations for him already being a part of the Indian team setup, I'm not very surprised. It's not going to be far away for sure, at least in the T20I format, because otherwise it just feels like a wasted talent if you're not going to launch him into the thick of things, especially because of the kind of way in which he's decimating these bowling attacks. It's not normal by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, there was this snippet where basically the Rajasthan Royals coaches were talking about how in trials he was tonking 158, 157-kilometer balls for six behind the side screen, and that's eventually what prompted them to get him into the setup in the first place.
Absolutely. Good morning, Sandeep. Glad you joined us here. Next up, we have Fakhar Zaman handed two-match ban for ball tampering. Fakhar Zaman has been handed a maximum penalty, a two-match ban after being found guilty of altering the condition of the ball during Lahore Qalandar's four-wicket defeat to Karachi Kings on Sunday night. The sanction was announced after a hearing in which match referee Roshan Mahanama concluded Fakhar had tampered the ball and breached Article 41.3 of the PSL Code of Conduct. The hearing had to take place because Fakhar had contested the ball tampering charges. A player is suspended for a minimum of one match or a maximum of two for the first time level 3 offence under the PSL Code of Conduct for players and player support personnel. The incident surfaced at the start of the last over of Kings' run chase when on-field umpires Faisal Afridi sought the ball from Haris Rauf after it had exchanged hands between Shaheen Shah Afridi and Fakhar. Faisal indulged in a lengthy discussion with Sharfudullah, the other on-field umpire, and the two decided to bring in a replacement ball, deeming it to have been tampered with. A PCB statement said match referee Roshan Mahanama conducted the disciplinary hearing and made the determination after reviewing all evidence and providing an opportunity of personal hearing to Fakhar. Lahore Qalandars captain Shaheen Shah Afridi, team director Samin Rana, and team manager Farooq Anwar were also present during the hearing. The PSL Code of Conduct allows Fakhar to lodge an appeal against the decision with the PSL Technical Committee within 48 hours of receiving the written verdict from the match referee.
Well, it's the PSL. It's Pakistani cricketers. You can't kind of have a single season without any of this coming up. Unfortunately for them. Now, of course, Fakhar Zaman can still contest this claim against him that he tampered with the ball, and that's something I'm sure he will do, especially if he's not done anything. But it's not. A nice taste to it, right? When you look at the PSL, especially this time around, first of all, there's a clash with IPL. There's a lot of conversation around players leaving the PSL. It's also being played behind closed doors because of the geopolitical situation and everything. So there's already so much spotlight on it, and in a situation like that, as a player, especially as a senior player who's been a part of the Pakistan setup for such a long time, it really doesn't show PSL in a really good light. So that's mostly it. It will be interesting to see. He has 48 hours if he contests the claim that is made against him that he's tampered with the ball, but clearly there must be some evidence going around. Even the umpires have had a lengthy discussion, and so keeping all of that in mind, let's see what happens. Maybe we'll have news in a couple of days, and that's mostly it on this piece of news.
And looks like he has already been slapped with the ban. So apparently,
Oh,
all of that that he's entitled to would have already
hmm,
happened. So yeah, and in
awesome.
fact, somehow Kalandars have been attracting a lot of controversy. There was this one featuring Sikandar Raza. So whatever they're
Yeah.
earning, looks like they're having
Hmm.
to pay most of it, or they're being banned. Next up, we have a news on the ECB, which is unmoved by Ireland's Euro Nations Cup proposal. Richard Gord, the ECB's chief executive, has poured cold water on the idea of an Asia Cup style tournament for European nations, citing England's jam packed international schedule. Brian McNeese, Cricket Ireland's chair, said this month that he was very passionate about the prospect of a Euro Nations Cup, pitching a 2027 launch for men's and women's T20 tournaments played between Ireland, England, Scotland, Netherlands, and potentially Italy. I've had this one on the table for discussion with various stakeholders for quite some time, McNeese said. It's something that I'm very passionate about and that I fundamentally believe in. The conversations have now developed and evolved to a point that I'm much more confident that it is going to happen. However, a successful launch would depend on England's involvement, and Gold suggested on Tuesday that he had no plans to add the international schedule of the men's team. It's a very nice idea, Gold said, speaking at the ECB's domestic season launch at Lords, but our schedule is absolutely jam packed and we're not looking to add to our schedule.
Now, this takes me back to the Asia Cup, right? If you look at the origins of the Asia Cup, it's a very similar story where India, Sri Lanka, and Pakistan, if I'm not wrong, were the ones who wanted to play this Asia Cup. But there's a fundamental difference in how you look at these two tournaments. So, with the Asia Cup, at the time in which the idea was conceived, none of the countries that were involved were superpowers within cricket. And I think that's the biggest hindrance to this current setup where they're trying to get the Euro Cup started. But England is already an established superpower. I'm just trying to think of what might be in it for England as opposed to someone like Scotland or Italy, for that matter, because those are the nations that will actually benefit more from a tournament like this, not only because of the fact that their players just get to play a lot more international cricket, but even if you look at it from a revenue standpoint, even if you look at it from attracting eyeballs, it makes a lot more sense. And these players just get to showcase more of their abilities, which means that they then become important in like a franchisee setup where a lot more people have knowledge on them because of this cup taking place, and then you can have them come into the auctions and whatever it is. Now, it will be interesting and it will be very exciting if they're able to pull this off. But clearly England, as much as it's they say that they like the idea, I don't think they're anything for it. Firstly, because of obviously England's packed international schedule. They also play more test matches in each year as compared to a lot of the other nations going around. So I will give them that. I will give them the fact that their international schedule is packed. But surely England can also look at what can be done, right? Because, for example, if you take India and if you take these slightly less relevant tournaments, or if you take, say, the Asian Games, for example, there India were okay sending a second string T20 team. So can think of doing something like that, because it just makes for a lot of exposure for the remaining nations. I know not much is going to happen for England. It's just something that they will do, and I think they should do it just to sort of benefit and grow the game from the associate standpoint. But honestly, I mean, England have no inclination to do it, so that's probably the end of that, unless of course we see some bigger incentives for them.
Hmm. Now, in England's case, the gap between them and the other nations is really wide,
Yeah.
but somehow, unfortunately, financially and both obviously in terms of pedigree, somehow, unfortunately, they do end up losing to these nations at big tournaments. So there's not much to win. And also the fact that it's not like a bilateral series. We've seen them
Mm,
play, say,
right.
Zimbabwe and Ireland and Scotland for that matter. This is more like, and it's unsaid but more like a long term commitment, because if you commit to a
Yeah.
tournament you do it year after year or every couple of years, so
I think they're
probably
just scared that they'll lose. I think that's what
exactly.
their worry is.
These European nations have been troubling England in these tournaments for the
Yeah,
longest
true,
time.
true.
Now it's meme time and we're talking about the length balls.
Cool. Can we have the meme? Yeah. So this is a very interesting one, right? It's something that's been ongoing for a couple of seasons now, and that has to do with how the Gujarat Titans operate, especially how Ashish Nehra operates. Because at this point, I think everyone more or less realizes that it's Nehra who is running this team, and I don't know how much of a say or how much Shubman Gill is really looking to do. So the bowlers, of course, get a benefit from their bowling coach. The middle order is non-existent, and then GT's batting run rate is something to think about. Because if you look at the top three for the Gujarat Titans, you have Sai Sudarshan, Shubman Gill, and Joss Butler. Now they all play a certain quality or a certain brand of cricket wherein you know that they aren't going to explode right from ball one. They're all slightly explosive anchors, if you can say that. They're people who like to get into their innings, and then their strike rate just kind of picks up through each phase of the T20 game. Now it's great when your one of your top two is able to play the entire innings, because that's when you'll get the maximum out of them. So with Gill or with Sai Sudarshan, they strike around the 140s or 130s in the power play. That picks up around 160 in the middle, and then towards the end, towards the death overs, is when they'll go at 200. So essentially, you want them playing the entire innings, because if that doesn't happen, then okay, you have the cushion of Joss Butler, but we know he's not in great form right now. And even with him, you know he can't explode right from the get go. So when you put that into perspective and you look at yesterday's game, that's exactly what happened. After a long time, I think all three of them kind of failed. I mean, they did get starts, they got 30 odd, but they took their own sweet time. They're striking at just around a 130s, 140s. And from there, like, how exactly do you proceed? There's been conversation that Washington Sundar is going to be backed in that position for the rest of the season, but you also need to have flexibility, because Washington Sundar's entry point yesterday was at the end of the 14th over, Whereas very easily, when you have so many wickets left, was it the best idea to send him? They could have sent Rahul Tewatia, given him a little bit of time to get in and then explode. Shah Rukh Khan's shown that he can bat in the middle as well as the death. He strikes at 160 in the middle. So could they have sent him there is another question as well. But yeah, this is something that we'll see if this changes across the future games. Is that time? I think that's time.
Yeah, that is time. We've covered
Awesome.
almost the entirety of 20 minutes and covered five important stories, plus a meme, and there's so much to look ahead to with the IPL underway.
Yeah, lovely. Now, today's game is LSG versus DC. I don't know how many of you are LSG or DC fans. Comment down below if you are. If you're looking forward to this game, there's going to be some exciting players on display. Of course, there's going to be KL Aksar Patel, Mayank Yadav. Maybe we might get to see him. So watch out for that. Hit that like button. Share this with your friends. Subscribe. Get us to 500 subscribers. I am tired of saying this, but I think you should really do it now. And that's it from us at Wake Up Cricket, powered by Pavilion Picks.